The date is Friday, January 28. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says his administration is looking at removing COVID-19 containment measures over the next few months.
The public should now start to visualize the ending of the DRMA, that is the Disaster Risk Management Act, and the various protocols and restrictions that it underpins. The public should now start to visualize us coming out of the pandemic measures and returning to our full economic capabilities and output.
The Prime Minister says Jamaicans have access to adequate, reliable information and resources about COVID-19. He notes that government interventions to curtail movement to slow the virus spread ultimately hamper economic, social activities and education.
They keep our children out of school. They have a devastating impact on livelihoods, particularly for the poor and vulnerable. They also have severe psychosocial impacts. Therefore, barring any extreme change in circumstances, our approach will be to gradually scale back the restrictive measures once we get out of the fourth wave that we are now experiencing.
Mr. Holness explains that the move to roll back restrictions is in keeping with projections of recovery from the pandemic.
We have to ensure that our economy gets back on track very quickly. So we cannot afford to have the measures impede our economic recovery. And if it is that our vaccination rates don't rise to the level where we can be guaranteed herd immunity, then the government can only help our citizens by providing them with information, encouraging them to get vaccinated.
The Prime Minister was delivering the keynote address during the opening day of the Jamaica Stock Exchange 17th Semi-Virtual Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference in New Kingston this week. The Department of Correctional Services got 500 COVID-19 kits this week. State Minister for Labor and Social Security Xavier Main delivered the kits at a handover ceremony on Thursday. The kits have been given to the island's prisons in an effort to strengthen the control measures against the coronavirus pandemic. Minister Main says along with adhering to the prevention and control measures, the kits will play a big role in preventing the spread of the virus.
Of course, this does not, circumvent the ordinary procedures and the well-established practices that you have been applying within your correctional facilities. And once a case becomes active, the usual isolation procedures are enacted and, the other control and prevention measures are enforced.
Minister Main also reported that work is ongoing to improve the health of inmates and to facilitate rehabilitation across the system.
We have seen over the last couple of years, months, an improvement in the inmate health care, Dr. Poe. We have seen that there are efforts to increase security and surveillance within our prison system right throughout the island. There's also a push to create an offender management system.
He also commended staff members on the work being done within the DCS in managing the effects of the pandemic.
The last 2 years have been rough for all of us, especially those of you who would have to work within the correctional service. And special commendation must be given to you because notwithstanding the difficulties, you have been able to discharge your responsibilities and you have been able to do so to the best of your ability, and you have been able to do it in a commendable fashion.
Director of Medical Services at the DCS, Donna Michelle Rai-Pro, says the donation will assist in protecting inmates and staff, as they can now do rapid testing once individuals are suspected of carrying the virus. The Pan American Health Organization is encouraging countries to take steps to facilitate the safe return to school for children. Schools have been adversely impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. PAHO's head, Dr. Chris Etienne, notes that some countries have started to vaccinate children, but the regional body is reminding governments that persons in vulnerable groups should remain the main focus for vaccination drives. Dr. Etienne was speaking at PAHO's weekly virtual COVID-19 update this week. PAHO's director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, notes that millions of children are still not in school due to the coronavirus pandemic. She says by promoting mask wearing, physical distancing, and ensuring adequate ventilation, countries can safely reopen schools.
And with each day that children go without in-person schooling, the greater the likelihood that they drop out and never return to school, leading to lifelong consequences. Additionally, the mental and psychological health of children and adolescents is being significantly affected, which may result in long-term consequences.
Dr. Etienne says COVID-19 isn't the only risk that children face where diseases are concerned.
COVID isn't the only risk that our children face. Over the last 2 years, millions of kids across the Americas have missed out on their routine medical visits, leaving them behind on their routine vaccinations. In fact, vaccination coverage has dipped so low that countries are at risk of losing 2 decades of immunization progress. As a result, countries are beginning to see outbreaks of diseases that for years had been under control.
She says vaccination should not be a prerequisite for attending school.
High vaccination rates among children are not a prerequisite for school reopening. We also urge parents and caretakers to get their children caught up on routine immunizations by bringing them in for their medical checkups.
Dr. Etienne advises that PAHO has published detailed guidelines and considerations to facilitate the safe return to in-person learning. Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Pernille Charles has indicated that the coffee industry is one of the areas high on the ministry's agenda for revamping and boosting. Coffee is revered as one of Jamaica's most traded commodities, with the Jamaica Blue Mountain coffee hailed as the flagship bean. The Jamaica coffee industry currently has over 4,000 farmers, with up to 70% of the JBM coffee produced being exported to Japan and 70% to the United States. However, the industry over the years has faced significant challenges affecting productivity, resulting in a downturn of output, moving from a high of 530,000 boxes in 2004 to 224,000 boxes in the 2021-2022 crop year. More from Marlon Samuels.
Soil erosion, pests and diseases, unpredictable climatic factors, low plant density, and an aging coffee farming population were some of the reasons cited by Minister Charles for declining coffee production. In response, he said the minister will implement strategies that will assist farmers in reducing the vulnerability of their crops to climate change occurrences, supporting the refurbishment and upgrading of coffee processing facilities. Also, there is the development of more value-added products that can be created from Jamaican coffee and the protecting of the brand from copyright piracy. Other strategies will include increasing access to market opportunities, improving access to financing and resources. The minister made mention of the revitalization plan for coffee through the Crop Restoration and Establishment Program, developed by the Jamaica Agricultural Regulatory Authority, RADA. This is expected to include the replacement of the coffee tree population over the next 10 years, starting with the production of 1.5 million coffee seedlings and stimulating the generation of $3.5 billion in additional income to coffee farmers over the next 6 years. Minister Charles was speaking at a recent virtual Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee Day event organized by the Consulate General of Jamaica and Japan in New York. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force is appealing to the public for any information that could lead to the arrest of 80 of the island's most wanted criminals. A number of the wanted men are from Westmoreland, Hanover, St. Anne, and St. James. Most of them are wanted for murder and shooting with intent. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitz Bailey made the appeal at a JCF press brief on Thursday.
If these persons are identified, I am inviting the citizen to call Crime Stop at 311, Operation Kingfish at 811, Police Emergency at 119, CID Headquarters at 929-9256, or the local police.
In today's extended business report, host Gabriel Thompson delves into the specialized services at the Finance Ministry. Also, we get the daily market updates.
In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, January 27, the US dollar sold for an average $156.88. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $129.53. The pound sterling traded for $212, and the euro sold for an average $177.87. In Thursday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index advanced by 1,670 points to close at under 400,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 26 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 1,802 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 3,072 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 53 advanced, 35 declined, and 17 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Trading firm were Community and Workers of Jamaica CCU Deferred Share, Consolidated Bakers Jamaica Limited, and Dermont Trading Company Limited. Spur Tree Spices Jamaica Limited was the volume leader with over 7.8 million units, followed by Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 2.2 million units, and Kingston Wharves Limited with over 1.8 million units. In market data for oil, prices rose on Friday, set for their sixth weekly gain amid concerns of tight supplies as major producers continue their policy of limited output increases amid rising fuel demand. Brent crude futures climbed 49 cents to $89.83 a barrel after falling 62 cents during the previous day. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 62 cents to $87.23 a barrel, having declined 74 cents on Thursday. Both Brent and WTI are set to rise for a sixth week, the longest weekly streak since October, when Brent prices climbed for 7 weeks while WTI gained for 9. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service says it has employed new technology, upgraded facilities, acquired newly re-engineered processes, and highly specialized staff to ensure that customers are at the heart of every service it delivers. In this episode of Finance Matters, host Daniel Pasley finds out more from the Finance Ministry's Director of Customer Service, Rory Stennett.
Thank you, Mr. Senator, for coming on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, how do we define service excellence?
I am so happy you asked that. Service excellence is being the best for the customer in every single sphere. A couple years ago, the ministry set a marker. We drew a line in the sand. We said, we are going to be the center of excellence in government. And so we've made practical investments to get there. But you don't get there overnight. It started with us saying, what's the governance layer? Who's going to be in charge of it? Some years ago, for example, we made a service charter. But this time around, we said, how do we know that we're delivering for our customers? How do we hold ourselves accountable? And can we say to customers, judge me by this standard that I have set? That's service excellence.
Now, what has the ministry done in implementing strategies so that there is an improvement in the customer service experience?
We invested in people. We're giving our people top-tier training in customer service. We invested in our processes. We have re-engineered so many of our processes, and more reviews continue, to ensure that they are lean, that they're giving people what they expect, and that they can be certified in one of those ISO 9001 standards that we're seeking to get.
Now, what does the ISO 9001 standards mean? Why is it relevant to the organization itself?
It's internationally accredited, and it is a way to say as a declaration that your processes are in order, they're streamlined in a particular way, they're repeatable. When you have this badge of honor, then customers can feel confident that services are delivered in an efficient and effective manner. But our investments don't stop there. Who remembers what our lobby used to look like? It wasn't great. Now, our lobby is sleek, it is comfortable, there's AC, it's accessible for people who have disabilities. If you're a parent with a child, you can go in there and do what you need to do. You don't have to be buzzed over here and buzzed over there. 80%, going on 90% of our services can be handled right there in that lobby. No need to traverse the building searching for someone. Help is right where you are.
What are some of the other innovations that will be implemented as well? Because you spoke about the lobby, but in terms of technology, how is that being implemented?
Have you ever applied for a scholarship from the Ministry of Finance? Had to drop off a physical document? Those days are done. You can be at home, you can log on, you can put all your information, upload your form, your scholarship is in. No more of this paper everywhere. We're changing how we do records management, mail management, making it more digital. We are on a digital renaissance now to lead in government to say this is how you do things. And before you get there, many people think of the Ministry of Finance as purely budget, revenue, but we are the Ministry of the Public Service. We're digitizing all our processes to ensure that our public servants are served in a way that they deserve. Jamaicans are extraordinary people, and we're going to give them extraordinary service.
In the scheme of things, how will this redound to the benefit of the Jamaican economy and the average citizen?
The government is here to support you. We're not here to inhibit you. It should not be a hassle to get service from the government, and we're leading that way in the Ministry of Finance. If you know about the Ministry of Finance, you know that we are at the center of everything in government. So when we are more efficient, government becomes more efficient. When we can influence the services of all these other agencies, they're doing this big thing called a cabinet submission, which is simply a way of getting things funded so services get to our citizens. When we make that process more efficient, service is delivered faster, more effectively, and provides value for every taxpayer's dollar.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I see that the Ministry of Finance is doing quite a bit in ensuring that the level of service excellence is at a global standard.
That's right. We're setting that bar. Now, a few other agencies have joined the fight, so you'll notice that there's a big campaign in government now from Cabinet Office to push the agenda. But we're going to be leaders in this, so you can hold us accountable. Every year, we're going to be holding a Service Excellence Conference and demonstrating to Jamaicans this big amount of progress that we've made. So stay tuned. There's so much more to come.
Here are are some stories being tracked across the region. Following a nearly 2-month delay and more than $30 million in renovations, Sandals Royal Bahamian reopened its doors for the first time since the start of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. The reopening was marked by a midday ceremony attended by Bahamian and Jamaican officials. Jasmine Brown reports.
The grand reopening means that hundreds of people are now back at work at Sandals, and the Prime Minister also says it's good news for the tourism industry. The West Bay Street Resort reopened on the 41st birthday of Sandals Resorts International Executive Chairman Adam Stewart. Stewart says not only did they want to reopen the resort, they wanted it to be a reimagined property.
And as we began thinking about reopening this resort in and amongst a series of all of our Caribbean resorts, we made a decision that the very first investment that we would make, major transformation after losing our founder, my father, and our chairman, would be to transform one of our most iconic investments in Sandals Royal Bahamian. We pivoted from what was and the history to what is all things beautiful and Bahamian.
In addition to Prime Minister Davis, the grand reopening ceremony was also attended by members of Cabinet and Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Prime Minister Davis said the fact that this Sandals property is back on the market means the Bahamian economy is bouncing back despite an ongoing pandemic.
The tourist economies of the Caribbean were hit especially hard during the COVID-19 pandemic. And today is a landmark moment. Another important signal that the Bahamas is open for business.
Officials say the redeveloped property will employ 900 plus workers. The resort was due to reopen last November, but that was delayed for renovations. Stewart has said the renovations cost about $37 million and employed up to 500 construction workers at the height of the project. The renovations included the addition of new swim-up suites and the refurbishment of more than 200 rooms and suites. Sandals Royal Bahamian General Manager Adrian Whitehead.
We're all here today to celebrate a major milestone. Could we not be more proud of the 900 plus team members we have working here on resort and the work that they've done with our leadership team and the corporate offices to make today possible.
While the Sandals property on New Providence reopened for the first time in nearly 2 years today, the property in Exuma has been open since February 2021. Stewart says that property continues to do phenomenally well. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
St. Kitts and Nevis is working a decrease in revenue of over $200 million as a result of the global chain crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic. More from SKN Newsline.
Assistant Comptroller at St. Kitts and Nevis Customs and Excise Department, Desley Greenaway, highlighted the negative fallout that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to have on the local economy. He was speaking on the government radio program, Working for You.
In 2018, just a comparison, we had imports value to the tune of over $877 million. Now, compared to 2021, we are seeing that drop by over $200 million. We have had value imports up to $647 million, right? Now, in speaking to a representative of one of the supermarkets, we have learned that the freight, pre-COVID, the freight on one 20-foot container was average between 4,000 and 6,000 EC dollars. And that 40-foot container to be shipped, the value was between 8,000 and 10,000 EC dollars. Now, during the pandemic, we have seen the freight increase now, where a 20-foot container would cost between 8,000 and 10,000 EC dollars, and a 40-foot container would cost now between 12,000 and 15,000 EC dollars. And of course, that cost would be passed on to the consumers ultimately.
The revenue generated from tax collecting on imported goods, according to Mr. Greenaway, would be used for helping the government to fund several areas, including infrastructure, healthcare, education, and capital projects. With less revenue being collected from taxes, this could affect government funding in critical areas. I am Jacinthia Teixeira for SKN Newsline.
In an effort to build capacity, the Ministry of Agriculture, through the OECS Regional Agricultural Competitiveness Project, has offered to extension officers, farmers, and other technical officers methods of improving their capacity in the agronomic management of tree crops.
More than 20 participants were exposed to 4 days of technical training on the advancement of soursop and guava cultivation. The activity was the first in a series of technical training exercises being coordinated under the Food and Agricultural Organization, the FAO, and facilitated by technical expert Dr. Abel Ropakos. The training focused on the cultivation of soursop and guava, the economic importance of the crops, their genetic aspects, varieties, pruning and fertilization. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Elvis Moraine, impressed upon the participants the need to use the knowledge garnered to enhance the management of these particular crops.
Have a U.S. market. It's not for us to just limit our efforts just to an export market. Because if we are saying that soursop is a superfood, and I always say to people when I speak about soursop, is it for just us to export to people? Why are we not consuming too? Why are we not looking at value added in this regard? So I'm saying those things that we have to think about, and the nature of the Agricom project is to bring you to that place, maybe a little faster than if we didn't have such a project.
This aspect of the Agricom project falls under Component 3, which seeks to build capacity in the agriculture sector. Project Coordinator Gregory Del Sol explained the reason for selecting guava and soursop.
We chose two crops, soursop and guava. We chose soursop because over the years it has become an emerging export crop for Grenada. Many farmers have gotten into the cultivation of soursop. It is a crop where we have a unique advantage in that we are the only country that could export fresh soursop to the United States. So we believe that we could do more. We could get in better yields if our farmers in the country start to do some of the practices that were explained and were demonstrated by the good doctor.
Guava, he said, is used extensively in the agro-processing sector and as such was ideal for the training provided. Del Sol said they are in discussion about other possible tree crops they want to improve capacity, such as avocado, citrus, etc. He touched on other areas they intend to do training.
We are looking at doing 7 more technical type trainings. We have not concretized all of them yet, but we are looking at livestock development, apiculture, we are looking at health and food safety, we are looking at floriculture, etc. Yeah. So we hope we'll have, at the end of the day, 12 functioning productive alliances that are operating, bringing benefits to their members and contributing to that overall development of agriculture.
Chrislina John, GBN News.
In sports, we kick off with football. Jamaica's senior national team, the Reggae Boyz, suffered a setback on Thursday after a 2-1 loss to Mexico. The boys needed a win to keep World Cup qualifying hopes alive. Playing to an empty national stadium, the boys took the lead in the second half courtesy of Daniel Johnson. Mexico would find the equalizer in the 82nd minute, with 2 minutes later an Alexis Vega's strike would seal the deal for the visitors. The next assignment for the boys will be an away game against Panama, followed by another qualifier at home against Costa Rica. And with that, we call an end to today's newscast. On behalf of our hard-working production team, we say thanks, as always, for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.